What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 4 of the Athletes Brazilian Center podcast, the ARC podcast. I'm Brandon Zachary, your host, and I'm here with my co-host Matt Owens. Matt, how you doing today?
Can't complain, Brandon. Another day, another dollar, man. We're out here.
Another dollar. This is going to be a fun episode. We're going to go into depth about kind of our indie ball tryout experiences that we had. Kind of any tips, tricks, advice from the things that we went through to people that may be going through it after they're done their college career. So definitely some interesting perspectives from the two of us. We had some crazy experiences. We'll be able to share some fun stories during that time. But yeah, it should be a fun episode, kind of debriefing, kind of what we went through and the different kind of mental hurdles that you kind of go through getting there. So let me paint the quick picture. It's senior year college for the both of us. Neither of us get drafted. Now, we both had the idea of playing professional baseball. That was the goal. Didn't get drafted, didn't get signed by any affiliate team. So now next step is go indie ball. And I think that's pretty normal for a lot of guys that kind of want to go the indie ball route. Unfortunately for the two of us, I don't think either of our coaches had independent ball connections like that. So, I think some guys kind of have that laid out where it's like, okay, well, I don't get drafted, I don't sign. I kind of have a spot here on this indie ball team. Like, I know a lot of guys, coaches have some more connections where it's like, I can get you a roster spot, or I can at least get you like a private tryout or a personal tryout or anything like that. I don't think either of us had those experiences. So we kind of had to do the research. The first one was all Matt. Matt did all the research and was like, we're going to go to this one. We drove together, drove 11 hours to Indiana, and that's kind of how we got the ball rolling with that. So I guess to start, Matt, we can kind of talk about it together. How do you transition immediately from playing in college to now saying, all right, now I'm going to train towards this thing? And if I do remember correctly, the tryout that we went to was probably, for me, I was in regional, so I got done end of May. I think I had 1 week break, and then we had the tryout the following weekend. So it was like,
Yeah.
because I think the tryout was actually on my birthday. I think it was June 18th. So it was like, I came home, we had like that first week of June break, and then the week after that, we had the tryout and kind of balls to the wall from there. So, like, I guess, how did you kind of deal with that mental restructuring of going from, senior year college, trying to win a conference championship, and then, from there, now it's like, all right, this is the new objective. This is where I go from here.
Yeah, I don't think I really handled it too well, honestly.
I didn't either. I think both of us were terrible. I at first told you I didn't even want to go.
Yes.
And you persuaded me. I did want to go, of course. I was just being a little baby. But
Right.
I was more just like, very emotional about the end of the season. And I think it would have probably suited the two of us better to not jump right into it. But I think we both wanted the exposure as quick as we could get it. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah, no, I think, I don't really think either one of us was ready, but it's like with anything, like you don't know when you're ready unless you kind of go through it for the most part. So like, for us going out there, making that transition, it's different, right? We just got off playing and everything like that. And like, you go on these tryouts and like some people already know what they're heading into. Like for us, like we did not know like what we were going into. And so that, we'll get to that a little bit later, but I'm sure like, that was a big part in that transition period was like, when you're playing college, you know what to expect. Like you're going to get to the field at this time. You're going to do this warm up with the team. You're going to hit, do whatever. And then you're going to go ahead and play.
Yeah.
And, typically if you're going for, a indie ball tryout, professional showcase, anything like that, like, you're a starter on your team where you have a significant role. So like you kind of are so used to just like, then you roll out to the field and like you play. You're not used to like having to come off the bench or having to do, X, Y, and Z. And like you're in college. And so like, if you're playing a conference game, like, the guys on the other end, like if you're playing at regionals, like your staff's done enough scouting where like, kind of what to expect when you get in there, like what you're going to face, who you're facing, what that team kind of does and what they play like. And like, there's none of that going into like an indie ball tryout. Like you don't know who you're going to face. You don't know who's there.
Yeah.
And like the first tryout that, we did, I think the easiest transition was the fact that it was just baseball. But at the end of the day, like it was chaos, pure chaos.
No, and like coming from high school where, you're trying to get recruited to college and you have like showcases, it's a lot more similar to that structure, but it's at like such a different level because like in high school, it's kind of like, you can almost instantly tell like, all right, this guy can play a little bit. You know what I mean? Like once you get from the collegiate to pro level, it's like, especially as a hitter, you are getting thrown into the fire and you have such limited opportunities at these tryouts. It's like, you could have a bad day and then, some coach takes away like, oh, this kid's not any good. But then you could the next week go 4 for 4 in the tryout with 4 homers. And then it's like you get signed. You know what I mean? So it's like,
right, yeah.
It's interesting that way. But I guess paint the picture for those who haven't gone through it. And like, I can speak from the pitcher side and then you can speak from the hitter side. So,
yeah.
This tryout, we drove 11 hours, middle of nowhere, and they held this tryout, and there were probably 250 people, something crazy.
About 250.
There were a lot of people, and we went there, and you're just kind of sitting there, and they give you like a number or something that you like tape on your chest or whatever, and like they give the hitters their space, and then the pitchers were kind of just like chilling until we find out what the lineup is of like how they do the pitching. And from what I've learned with some tryouts, they had the guys that they were most interested throw first, whether that be from the connections from college coaches that they had or seeing guys actually play or knowing guys were draft guys potentially and it just didn't work out and they're at the tryout now and they're at the top of the list. So some of those tryouts, those guys threw first. And then other ones, it was just like randomized and whoever was going, they just kind of picked names. And that's that. So I guess when you get to the field, Matt, because you are starting from the jump, since the pitchers have that break, what are you doing? Because most of the time, the first thing that everyone has is the 60 from what we've gone through. So what are you doing? You get into the field, you got to get ready. Most of the time, it's pretty early in the morning. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so for this one in particular, like, they brought us out maybe 8:30, 9 a.m. It was like kind of like a throwback to, when you have to be asked to compete that early, like when you're playing like travel ball and everything like that, when you're in high school and everything. So we get there, they give us this whole speech and everything like that about like what they want, what they're looking for. And, you can see faces drop immediately because in this speech, the two teams, they pretty much are like, yeah, we're looking for pitchers.
Yeah.
And we're looking for a 6'2" shortstop, and we're looking for a center fielder that runs like a 6'4". Everyone's looking around like, yeah, there's third baseman, there's first baseman, there's catchers here.
This would have been nice to know beforehand.
Yeah, everyone's like, wait, you just drug us out here and like, we don't have a shot, like type of deal. So like, they kind of explain like, the rest of you guys, we're not necessarily like looking at you or looking for you. Like you just need to be better than like what we have. So it's like, if you've never seen a game before, you don't know what they have. So you just have to showcase yourself the best way possible. And so pretty much they run you through a stretch and everything like that, get you on the line. You'll run like, this one in particular, you ran a 60. So you ran your 60, you did about like 2 times and everything. They kind of take you to the field. You're doing, and this one there was multiple fields at the complex and everything. So, they had, a couple people like bouncing around to kind of get ready. And then you come back over to the field and you kind of go through like a fielding type of showcase and everything like that. Like this one was the most, prototypical, like, you play your position, get a couple, backhand, forehand, routine, turn 2, charge play, done. Right. And then you go into BP. This one for BP is pretty much just like live arm, hop in, hop out. You get about like 7, 8 swings. Come back in, take like around like 3 or 4, and then like you're in the field and you're shagging. And then like after that, you're hopping into like a game. So like over the amount of time, like granted, like that's not a lot of stuff, but like we got there at 8, 8:30.
Yeah.
You know, you begin at like 8:30, 9 a.m. somewhere in that time range, and like pitchers weren't getting there till like 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now, when you sign up for some of them, they'll let you know start and projected end time. This one we had a start time.
Yeah.
So there was no projected end time and everything. So at that 8:30, 9 o'clock check-in, it's only position guys. Pitchers don't get there till like 1 o'clock. So we're all checking out the schedule, and like collectively you can feel like a group of people like, wait a second.
Yeah.
We're not getting out here till like 6 p.m. tonight.
Yeah,
like,
that was crazy.
10 hours on a turf field. It's hot. It's 95 plus, and like you're going to be there for 10 hours. And they're like, you know, we got water. Like there's no snacks. There's no food. Like pretty much like you should have came prepared. So like you don't know what to expect for that first one. That's kind of how that structure went. We played from 1 o'clock to like 6 o'clock at night. It was insane.
So then like during that time period, you had like an 8-hour day almost. Like just about. So how do you, as a hitter, like you're there for 8 hours, but you probably only got legitimately 15 minutes of time where it's like focused on you. You know what I mean? Like, and that's baseball to an extent where like in game, you know, you only get X number of at bats, but like you're in the flow of the game, you're playing a position, then you're going and hitting. These tryouts, it's like even in the games, like you might go play first base, and then next inning you get your at bat, but then next inning because they, you know, it's a tryout, so everyone's rotating through. You're sitting, you're not playing first base, and then you're not getting an at bat for another, you know, 3 times through, whatever it is, and then you go back out and play first base, but you're all cold and stiff. It's like, how do you navigate that mentally? How do you not be like this is just not effective for me and not efficient for me? You know?
Yeah. I don't really think there's a way to kind of like mentally navigate it, to be honest with you. I think like it's almost just like you think about it that you're going to be kind of screwed for the most part. It's just kind of like show up and like be ready to rock, like honestly. So it's like whether your at bat comes in the first inning and your fielding comes in the 5th, like you just got to be locked in like the whole time. And like at this particular one, like if you remember, it was, you know, for position players, it was like whatever your pool was, like this is team A, this is team B. Don't cross teams, stay on your team. And if there's 2 first basemen on team A, figure it out. Like y'all can rotate through. Like you guys are grown men. And like, you know, for me in particular, I had 2 other first basemen with me. One was an outfielder, secondary position, and the other was, you know, and we'll tell a story later, but the other was a teacher.
Go for it. Just say it now.
Player.
Tell it now.
Yeah, so the other guy, he was a teacher, not a baseball player, and he wanted to be able to tell his class once summer vacation was done that he attended and played in a professional tryout.
Yeah.
So he does all the showcase stuff, takes his first at bat, K's up pretty bad, like gets an inning at first, and then he's like, all right, like I'm out. I'm like, wait, so now it's just me and this other kid, and like, yeah, we were familiar actually with each other. We had trained together over in Philadelphia a couple years earlier, and actually the year prior. And so he was like, hey man, like I don't want to leave you hanging, but like it's every man for himself out here. I got to go play some outfield. So I'm like, nice. So I ended up being the only first baseman on my team for hours.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's like a blessing and a curse because you're like, all right, I got the opportunity. And like, you were a pretty good defensive first baseman. So like to be able to showcase that for longer is like beneficial. But then on the other end, it's like, I'm out here for 6 hours. Like, it's not like a game. It doesn't end. And, you know, there's not 9 innings on each side. There's 50 pitchers that you got to get through. So it's like, you're playing 30 innings at first base. Like, that's going to get exhausting.
Oh, man. I appreciate the compliment. I was okay at first base.
You got good. You got good. You got good at first. But, like, so then, how do you how do you manage not getting like upset or mad about that? Because we've played with plenty of people that I'm sure if they're throwing in that opportunity, they're saying to the coach that's there running the tryout, like, "Yo, give me a break over here. Like, what's going
Yeah.
on?" And I know you're not one that would complain like that, and obviously you just kind of whatever they gave you is what you're gonna do. So how do you navigate that, and not be like pissed or upset or let that get the best of you for the rest of the tryout?
It's just opportunity at the end
Yeah,
of the day, and like whatever opportunity comes your way, like you're there for that. So it's like
yeah,
you want me to do what for 20 innings? Sure. Like I drove 11 hours
of
out
course,
here
yeah, yeah,
in a car, so I'm like, all right, cool, like whatever, man. Like, and no one wants to play first base. Cool, I'll play 20 innings at first base. I'll take only two at bats. Like it's whatever. It's cool, and like. But at the same time, it also gives you kind of like a way, like it gives you a scope for like, hey, if you're going to do it again, like this is kind of what it
yeah,
looks like. It also kind of helps you prepare because it's like that was one of the I'm not going to say the hardest things I had to do like baseball wise, but like you're out there in the sun, you're in an unfamiliar environment, you're trying, you have to give instant performance. So it's
yeah,
like it's a pressure cooker and like in just an environment of chaos. And so it's like
yeah.
you kind of take it in and you're like, maybe the next one will be like this. And if it is, I'll be prepared for that a little bit better. Or if the next one's easier, like I'm almost over prepared for like whatever comes next and everything like that. So you get a chance to take a step back and just kind of like look at everything.
I think that first tryout for the two of us, and I'm sure anyone who's been through it as well, like the first tryout was a good test for the two of us because then, like we had been to a post draft tryout, the two of us in like the Northeast, but it was way different, way quicker. Like after I threw, I was able to leave and like you kind of went through your stuff, but it was a lot more like fast paced. I don't want to say more organized, but there were less people, so it was easier to manage. It was
Yeah.
easier to cycle through. You probably got more than your fair share of at bats and swings during VP and stuff like that. Where you know that post draft tryout was designated for the two of not just the two of us, but everyone that was there. Like it was their coaches running it, so there was a lot more level of care.
Right.
There's like
Yeah.
we want to showcase you as best as we can. Where
Mhm.
the indie ball tryouts were not structured that way. It's very much so we're trying to see what the best talent is and we're trying to sign maybe two of you. You know what I mean? Like and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's the other tough thing that you got to come to terms with is there were 250 people there. There were two teams there, right? Two teams that
Two
held the
teams.
tryout.
Yep.
They were saying, and again, they straight up said pitchers, big shortstops, really fast outfielders. And
Yep.
it's like, one, then you're looking at yourself, I don't fit the mold of any of those. And then two,
Yep.
they probably only need four total between the two of them. So two on each
Yep.
team. And like maybe three if they're you're lucky. So
Mm-hmm.
navigating that is tough too. And that kind of brings the competitive nature out of you and like how are you going to face that? And I think a
Right.
lot of it, which I think I struggled at that one, was not comparing yourself to the other people that are there. Because once you start doing that, then it's like, oh, that guy throws harder than me. I'm not getting signed today. And it's like,
Yep.
well, maybe that's not what they're looking for. I mean, we had guys at the tryouts that were like, I don't care if you throw 95. Like, we have guys on our team that throw 86. And like, some of that, you're like, okay, whatever. But also, there's a little bit of truth in that where it's like, listen, you might throw 95, but then they go look at your college resume and it's like, you pitched 10 innings total, you had how many walks, you let up how many,
Right.
whatever it is. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
like the guy that, was an All American in college but throws 88. It's like, you know what? I think we can kind of do something with this. Maybe this guy gets in the weight room a little bit more, dedicates all to baseball, no more school. Like, let's see how this goes.
Right.
So I feel like there is that. The biggest piece of that is just focusing on what you can control and going from there. And I think
Yep.
that first tryout led the two of us to know how to prepare for the tryouts better and how we were going to approach training. We
Yep.
did kind of get to like size up where we were versus like the guys that we heard had gotten signed or had an interest. So we're kind of like, okay, what did those guys have that we can kind of, strive towards doing and showing and showcasing?
Right.
Even as little as things as like the travel for the two of us, like understanding how are we going to be able to do this more effectively. Like making sure you're getting the proper sleep. Like you said, like a big thing too is eating, like packing, like even if it's like a protein bar and like getting some electrolytes in because like most of the days there were summer tryouts, it's hot. Like
Right.
you got to make sure you're not tired. As a pitcher, like I can't be like pacing around the whole time. I can't be like out in the sun. I can't be like having conversations with everyone, just goofing off. Like you kind of got to be like in the shade and like
Right.
resting until it's like okay, now I can go get hot and get ready to go. So I feel like after the first one, we're like okay, if this we're gonna treat this like the rest of them, and we're gonna try to prepare for that. And like I feel like the two of us then really dedicated to getting in the gym, working out a lot, hitting every day for you, throwing every day for me, like really trying to get better at understanding that. And then I think the interesting thing that I'd like to hear your perspective on versus pitching, because I could talk about this a little bit, where like at the tryout, the first one especially, you're sitting there cold for 5 hours. Then you got to go get hot, get ready to go, and
Yep.
typically it's not like a smooth warm up or transition. Like if it's a really good run tryout, a lot of the times they'll either have one of their bullpen catchers there to warm you guys up, or they have a cycle of catchers that all right, you catch in the game, you catch a bullpen, and then you take a break. But that first one wasn't like that. Like I think I was throwing with the pitcher for like 15 minutes before it was finally like, all right, some catcher came down and whatever. So it's like you are sitting around for basically 7 hours and 30 minutes, and you're showcasing yourself on the mound for like a very brief period of time, and you kind of got to capitalize. So from there, I was like, okay, well now learning from that, you can learn how to train, and now it's like
Right.
when you're training, it's to always be ready. And like one of the pitchers that I used to throw with, one of our boys, used to say like, I'd be like, "What are you training for?" When he wasn't like on a team, and he'd be like, "I'm training to stay ready and be ready." Like whenever my name's gonna get called, whenever someone's gonna ask me to go pitch for them, like I just need to be ready. So that's what I'm gonna train to be. Is like you're in it the whole time. You're basically
Yep.
in season for however many months that you're going to those tryouts for.
Right.
Like I was throwing a bullpen like every single week, and trying to get ready for the next opportunity that was going to come your way, and like trying to keep your arm strength up, like everything. There's no real breaks because you can't like say, oh, I'm going to take a month off and then I'm going to ramp up real quick, and then like maybe a team likes me and then I'm like, you know what, can you give me 2 more weeks to ramp up? It's like, no, you got to be ready to be like,
Yeah.
I'm good to go, especially with indie ball because there's so few opportunities compared to how many people want to go. So it's like if you're like, I don't know if I'm ready, they're gonna be like, all right, great, we're gonna go to the next guy who is ready.
Yeah.
So I feel like from the pitcher's perspective, there's no breaks. Where like in college, it's like okay, I could take a little bit of a break period, not throw, and then like ramp myself back up for the season. It's like there is none of that. You
Nope.
gotta go. And even there's like they even have like winter tryouts. Like so it's like you gotta be ready to go again. And like I think there was one in Florida in December. So I didn't
Yes.
do that, but like you gotta be ready for that. You're constantly just staying hot and ready to go.
Yeah. 12 months.
12 months.
12 months.
Yeah, it's intense, but I feel like that first one kind of set us up for that. But like
Yeah.
that first one, I was cold, and then I got up, and I think the first guy that I faced, I go up, and like I warm up, great, feel good. I I hit the guy with a fastball, and it's terrible. I feel so bad, and I hit him, and he's like like rubbing his rib and stuff, and I'm like crap, and then you hear the coach because most of these guys, they want to see you hit. They don't want to see you walk. So then they're like, all right, like run it back, 1-1 count. And then my catcher I see throws down the breaker. I'm like, okay, curveball, swings over it. Catcher gives me another 2, curveball, swing over it. I struck him out, and he was so mad. He walked back to the dugout and was staring me down the whole time. He was
whole
sitting
time.
in the dugout just like, arms crossed, just staring at me, just like watching. Bro, he was so mad. But again, like, and that just is a testament to the hitters, the hitters like situation. Like he got
Right.
up there. It was my first
Yeah.
pitch. Let one loose, hit him, fastball in the ribs. He's like,
Yep.
dang, like crap. I got to get back in there because they're telling me. And then me, I gave him two curveballs because that's what I wanted to showcase. And like, that's not fair to anybody. That's
Yeah,
not
no
fun.
shot.
Yeah, that's
No
not fun.
chance.
That's not fun. Yeah, terrible. So like, it's such there's such weird little things like that you kind of
Yep.
you just got to stay prepared. And then
Yeah.
like I think that helped us lead into the second one when we're ready to go. It's like all right, the second one we went to it was an individual team. So the first one was like two teams, and I think there was they advertised the first one with like a Diamondbacks scout. Or
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know
no
if
one
that guy
showed
ever
up.
showed up. Yeah, yeah. I don't think he ever showed up. But then the next one was in Illinois, and we're trying out for a team in the Frontier League, and they were in last place. So
Oh.
both of us were kind of like, okay, honestly, if there's going to be an opportunity, like this is probably the one. You know,
Mhm.
they're in last place right now. They kind of got nothing to lose. Like they could take a shot on the two of us, maybe because we're young. They're thinking like, okay, well, we could sign him for the end of this season, and then going into next year, like we can bring him back, whatever, whatever. So we go to this tryout, and we clearly see from the jump this is a lot less organized than the first one that we went to. I
Oh yeah.
think we got there at let's say 8:30 in the morning. These
Mhm.
guys, the coaching staff, was 30 minutes late, and they're walking in from it was like walking in from center field. They're like
Yep.
walking in real slow with their cups of coffee. Like we're all just sitting there wait. I think we're waiting in the stands. I don't even think we got on the field yet.
Yeah.
Right?
They hadn't let us onto the field
Yeah.
just yet.
Yeah.
We're in like the stands.
And yeah, they by the time we really got like on the field, I think it was like 9:15, and we were all there
Mhm.
since 8:30. And like then it's like, all right, you guys got to go get ready and get hot and go run your 60. And then same thing, pitcher, same story. But now I feel like you and I were both in the mindset like, okay, I think leading into it, you and I were in a good place, and I think
Yeah.
we felt
Yeah.
more confident and like we were ready to go. Like this was a good opportunity for the two of us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, on top of them showing up 30 minutes late, let's let's clear the air on like what happened before we even got onto the field. They they tell everyone there, turf facility.
Oh
They
yeah,
don't put anything in the tryout flyer, like, so people were looking it up, and like I remember like even getting to the field and people were talking about like, hey, like I had to look it up. I didn't know it was turf. I thought it was dirt still.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
apparently they had just turfed over maybe that year, a year earlier, but like no pictures were really shown. So, for me, I can't live without preparing for all factors in my life. So I'm like, I got turfs with me, I got medals with me.
I think we
I'm
both
ready to
bought
go.
plastic cleats because the first tryout we needed plastic.
Correct.
Because one of our buddies, quick side story because this is going to be funny. We go, one of our buddies goes, didn't realize that we needed turf. So he brings his metal cleats and then he goes to Dick's, buys turfs,
Yep.
wears them, pitches in them, and the next day puts the turfs back in the box and returns them to Dick's. I've never seen anything like it.
Never seen anything like that.
It was unbelievable. Shout out Curry. That was crazy.
Shout Curry.
That was nuts. That was crazy.
Out of pocket. That was the most unique situation I think possible.
That was nuts.
Oh man. So the second one, they're like, hey, before we even hit the field, all you guys that got medals on, you gotta take them off. Like you gotta go in shoes or you gotta go molded. So people are like, I didn't have any molded. I don't have, whatever. Like, no, you gotta go in shoes then. And like, no one wants to play on a turf facility in turfs. It's terrible. You can't run fast. You have no grip. Like the whole nine. So they go, okay. They pull out a crate of molded cleats and literally throw them on the ground and go, don't hop on the field until these are on your feet. So like there's guys up there, like we're running, we ran our first to homes, like they stretched us out real quick, run our first to homes. There's people still up in the stands grabbing molded cleats and everything like that. It was that was the start. That was before we even did anything else. No throwing, nothing. Guys had to change it to like molded cleats. Bizarre land. They were most definitely in last place.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then I did feel like maybe because my circumstance at this tryout was a little bit more unique, but I felt like we had more opportunity here than the first one.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
I think you got more at bats, you got more exposure, I got more time to pitch, and I feel like walking in there were less people, which was a good sign, and then I think the skill set was probably similar to the first one, but I think just because it was a little bit smaller, they were able to kind of give everyone else a little bit more. It also wasn't. I don't think it was run very organized, so that also probably played a factor in like maybe we weren't supposed to get as much opportunity as we did at the time. But we'll take it. You're trying to showcase yourself as best as you can.
Right.
But yeah, I guess then go through your BP experience, because I think the difference between your BP in the first one versus the BP in your second one was night and day. Like, not that the first one was bad, but the second one, like, I remember watching and you're hitting like oppo field homers, and I'm like, oh, this is like pretty good showcase right here. Matt's showing like opposite field juice right now. This is good. This is good.
So, I mean, the first one was okay. Like in Indiana, like whatever, like go up and just try to have like a couple good rounds like BP. I'm like, I remember being at that one, and it was like, I don't know what it was. I just really couldn't like showcase my power, honestly. Like drove a couple gaps, whatever, maybe one or two got out.
Wasn't the field really big?
The field was pretty big.
The first one?
Yeah. So which also made me feel like terrible. I'm like, oh man, like a first baseman's not hitting it out. I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta hit the drawing board again. And so I remember, we had a month to prepare for the second one. I remember going real hard. I wanted to put on a couple extra pounds because I was just like, screw the 60. Like let's get back to being meaty. And like at that point in time, I could go up, I could go down, like I could just fluctuate my weight pretty easily and everything like that. So I think I walked into the second one at 255 pounds. So I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? What's the best thing I thought for me that I could do was go opposite field. So I'm like, I'm gonna go opposite field. So I hit maybe like round of 12, maybe hit like 5 out in between the 2 rounds and everything like that. All backside. I got one pull side up in the air, get out. So I'm like, I go 6 hits, 6 home runs, rounds of 6 and 6. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I felt so good until the eval came out at the end.
God.
Where I haven't spoke about this yet, but I have a torn rotator cuff. I tore in high school. I tore my anterior and my posterior labrum as well. So like from age 16 to 17, I barely threw a baseball for like a 6 to 8 month period. Like just rehab. And like my arm actually didn't make a full, I don't even say a full, but like I say like an 85, 90% recovery until I got out of college. So going to these tryouts was the healthiest my arm's ever been. Now, keep that in mind, because my arm is not that good. And so I remember getting the grades, and so they went 2 to 5 scale at this one. And I remember, fielding. I did well fielding. That was something I really wanted to focus on. Making good throws. Yet again, I don't have a good arm. So comes out, my arm's I think it was a 4 or 4.5?
A 4.
Out of 5. So I get a 4 out of 5 on my arm. I go 6 for 12 in BP.
With 5 oppo homers.
Oppo home runs. We got 5 in there. And they went 2.5 out of 5 for my power. And I was like, I don't think you guys watched what I was watching.
Yeah, and I think that's we're going to come back to that because I also had a similar experience at another tryout with something like that. So yeah, because there's some lessons to be learned there that we kind of we kind of went through. But like even though the grading you got back was kind of weird, but like
Different.
the I guess success that you had, at least from my perspective, seeing and like the people that I was with, like showed from the first tryout to the second one. Because the second one you really showed out, and that was you balled out, and that was great. And like in game, weren't you hitting the ball pretty well too? Like when we showcased off
So in
my
game,
side.
I drove a gap and I got hit, count reset, and I hit I think I grounded out to the second baseman. So I went like long fly out, ground ball to second base after I got hit by a pitch. And it was different too because, that one, like the first one, you're playing a game, like nothing's on the field. It's not,
Yeah,
it's just you're playing. And the second one, if you remember, like they had like a turtle up and like you're
yeah.
throwing to hitters and you're hitting out of like a turtle and everything like that. A little bit like of a different feel and everything. So it's like it's funny. The first one, like they wanted everything to be like showcase. You're playing baseball,
Yeah.
and the second one just kind of felt like they were like, "Hey, we're looking at the mound and we're looking at what you do at the dish." Granted, that's obviously how a lot of baseball is played.
Yep.
However, it was just a little different where it was like, okay, like if this guy hits the top of the cage, like they're just gonna let him stay in. Like it might actually be a fly out, but they're like, screw it, man. Like we're going to get a result here. Like somebody's
Yeah.
going to field a baseball before you get out of there and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was. I forgot they had the turtle up and everything, and that was definitely interesting. Because then again, like some dudes would like hit a foul ball, and like I guess I'm just thinking about this now, and I'd like to hear what you think too. But like some dude would like pop up like straight up, and then it hit the turtle, and they're like, "All right, out." And then it's like, well, that's probably a foul ball, like
Right.
realistically, but like they're just calling it out because like popped up, hit the turtle, whatever it is. So like, how do you navigate that too? Because it's like you're like, well, in game, that's like I'm gonna get another opportunity. So then it's like, what do I do
Right.
from here? You know what I mean? And like that doesn't necessarily even mean you took a bad swing. Maybe you like fought something off, and it's like just you got up, and then they're like out. It's like okay, like that doesn't help anybody.
Well, personally, I dealt with that in college. Like we, when we be in our
Yeah,
indoor, like you can do whatever, and it could be like you can hit absolutely on the screws. Coach would be like, fly out.
yeah,
Everybody knows, like, oh, that's not a fly out.
yeah,
So, like, that, it's like, me, I'm sure a bunch of other people there kind of went through a similar experience like that. But the margin of error when you go to one of these is just like, it's so minuscule. Like, you can't mess up.
yeah,
Like, it's not the mindset you need to have, but like, you can't mess up. That's just the fact of the matter. Is like, you can't miss.
yeah,
And I think there were some guys that like hit the turtle, got called out, but then you quickly find out like who they want to see,
yeah.
who they're looking for, and everything like that. Because when that guy hits the turtle
It's a
and
foul
it's a
ball.
foul ball,
Yeah,
he gets a second life, whereas the other guy got sent out to the field or sent to the dugout or anything like that.
yeah,
So there's really no real way of like navigating it. It is what it is. Like honestly, at the end of the day, like you got to deal with that. Like it's just fair, unfair, whatever. You have to eat it. Like it don't matter.
yeah, yeah. And I think that tryout, I got lucky enough for the opportunity where I pitched and I threw a lot better than the first one. That was like I felt really good, and there was like a month and a half gap I think between the two tryouts, something like that. So like
Yep.
we had a pretty significant, like I call that pretty significant time to like train and get ready, especially as a pitcher.
Yep.
If I got a month and a half to like prep, I feel pretty good. So like going into that, I felt good, and then I think they gave everyone 5 hitters to face, like as a
Yeah.
pitcher, and the first 5 I struck out, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like struck out, and then like I was getting ready to walk off, and then you hear from the back the coach like again. I was like, all right. So then like next 5 guys, like I think I went strikeout. I went 4 strikeouts, and then the 5th one was a broken bat grounder to second out. And then he's like, another one. And I'm like, Jesus. Like at that point, I faced 10 guys in a row. And like I'm feeling good. And I'm not complaining at all. But I'm just kind of like, all right, like let's keep going. Let's keep going. And then the kid that came up, who was my 11th hitter, was like this lefty that had just hit off me. And I think I gave him, I went like fastball, curveball, fastball, whatever. And sorry. It was fastball, curveball, or curveball, fastball, changeup. That's what it was. Curveball, fastball, changeup. And he just swung over the curveball, got him a strikeout. Great. And then he comes back up, and then I'm sitting there, and I get up on him like 1-2, 0-2. I'm ahead of the count. And then the catcher who's catching me gives me the changeup sign. And I'm like, no. Because I'm like, he already saw it. Like, if I give it to him again, I think he's going to be able to either spit on it or, hit it pretty good. He goes again. I shake. I'm like, okay. Gives it a 3rd time. Shake again. And then he jogs out to the mound, and I was like, I don't think, like, I think here, like, we should go fastball or, like, slider in. Like, I don't think we should be going change up here. And the kid told me, he's like, no, the coaches from behind the plate keep telling me they want to see the change up again. And I'm like, okay. Like, and again, I'm at the tryout. Who am I to say no, obviously, to that? That's what they want to see. But I throw the change up, and kid hits a home run on the change up. He golfed this out. And I was like, oh, man. And, like, just turned back. And then the catcher, it was funny. By the time, like, I turned back, the catcher had already, like, jogged up to the mound. And he's like, I told him we should just go fast. Like, he's, like, telling me. He's like, I told him we should just go fastball. They're the ones telling me. Like, I agree with you. And I'm like, all right, like, we're good. We're cool. And then he goes back. And then they let me face one more hitter, strike out again.
Yep.
And then that's that. They didn't say anything. I dap up with the catcher. Like, really nice guy. He was awesome. But, and then that led to after the tryout, they were like, all right, everyone's free to leave except, and then they called my name out. They're like, except Brandon Zachary and then the catcher that I was with. So then they come up and basically they're like, they had a guy come and throw. Do you remember they had a pitcher rehabbing?
Yeah.
Like one of their guys. Like,
yep.
They straight up told me, like, he was rehabbing, and they straight up told me, they're like, we think you're better than that guy, and we think you're better than, like, a couple of the other arms that we have on our team. Like, I think we want to sign you. Like, we'll call you on Monday, and we'll get things situated, and, like, get ready to come back out. Like, get ready to, have a flight out. Like, I'm like, oh, wow. Like, really talking about me playing on the team as of, like, the following week. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, whatever. I'm like ready to go. I'm all excited. Like, we're driving home. I was so excited I got a speeding ticket in Matt's car. But like, yeah, I think I was amped. And like, You come home, I'm like thinking like, should I start packing stuff? Is that like bad luck? Like, what do I do? But like, if they call me Monday, I want to be ready to like get out there, whatever. Like, I'm having conversations with like my wife, my girlfriend at the time. Like, I think I'm going to, get the call and I'm going to have to go out there for the rest of the season. I think there was like a month left.
Yeah.
And it's like, talking to the rest of my family, talking to like my friends, like, it's like, oh, it seems like this is going to happen. Like, they were very for real. It was the head guy, the head coach told me, the assistants were there telling me, like, helping me out. They're like, yeah, like, we'll help you, like, get flights out here. If you want to drive, like, feel free, whatever. They're, like, really talking this up. Like, it's done deal. Like, they're going to email me the contract and we're going to get this thing done. And I'm like, awesome, cool, whatever. This is, the experience that I wanted. Great. And then Monday comes, nothing. Tuesday comes, nothing. The following Monday comes, nothing. Nothing. Heard nothing for the rest of the season. Not a word. Not even like a, hey, like, couldn't get the deal done. Like, we're gonna ride with our guys right now. I'm like watching the Frontier League transaction page, like refreshing. Like maybe they like are going through paperwork. I'm like looking to see if they like released guys or anything like that. Like
Right. Yeah.
that was like a crazy experience too, because mentally then I'm like, all right, like I'm ready to go. I'm signed basically. Like
Yeah.
that's what I felt. That's the way that they were saying it. Like you were there. I don't think I'm out of pocket for thinking that
No.
they were like
To a
ready to
T.
sign me.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was like a crazy experience. And I think too, but like the takeaway from that is also like always staying ready. Like at the end of the day, it is a business and like they are paying guys. So like for them to make all these moves and stuff, there are implications around all of that. Maybe they didn't know what moves to make, whatever it is. It's like there are a lot of different variables and factors that go into it that, I can't control. So
Right.
at the time, obviously, I was frustrated and it made me mad and upset. But like looking back on it, the only thing to do from that point forward was, all right, I just need to keep getting better and hopefully another opportunity like that will come. But like,
100%.
yeah, that was like a crazy, crazy experience.
That was a lot.
Yeah, that was nuts. And two,
That
like
was a lot.
last place team, the two of us were like, this is definitely the opportunity. They're probably just trying to get guys out of there and
Right.
like cycle through, maybe have the opportunity to come back next year too. So like when I didn't hear back, and then I sent them an email. I sent the head coach an email like a month later, and was basically like, "Hey, like, it didn't work out. Whatever. Like, trying to keep a line of communication, just kind of
Right.
seeing their level of interest." And he even said, me and you just went over the email because I forwarded it to you a while ago, and he even said that he was interested in having me back out for their spring training, like
Yes.
basically with the intention to sign with the team again. And then again, he says reach out to me on a certain date, and then I reach out. I think I reach out twice. Nothing.
Yep.
Ghosted. So it's like, but that I feel like that happens wherever you are in baseball. Like that will happen.
Part of it.
And sometimes not. I'd say college. It's a little bit more intimate, but like I've had that when I was during my recruiting process, where like I had interest, and then all of a sudden it fades, and then you don't hear from a coach again, and it's like, you know, that kind of stinks. But again, like everything happens for a reason, and I feel like
Sure.
going through that was more beneficial, like leading into the next couple tryouts, because like then we had the one in North Carolina, which again, I think we can tie back into another unorganized showcase that we went to, where
Yep.
again, like we've talked about every single one, they give you a time, and then it's like, all right, be there at 9. We're gonna run 60s at 9:30, and we get there at 9. And what happens, Matthew?
We get there at 9, and they're pretty much wrapping up 60s. Like they're pretty much done.
Yeah.
Like that portion, and we're like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Oh, we just start early." Like no indication that you're starting early. Like
Yeah, nothing.
people are coming from all over the country for like these things too. So like you don't know, and like at 2 previous tryouts, like people got there for that tryout at that time, or like earlier, like or like 30 minutes early.
Yeah.
Like if they're driving from Wisconsin, like they're going to get there at game time for the most part. Or
We
like
had
the
guys
start
drive
of the,
overnight and make it just
Yes.
for the tryout, and then drive back home right after the tryout.
after the tryout.
That's
Like
crazy.
that was the thing. Like
Yeah.
we did a good job of usually getting everywhere a day in advance, so
Yeah.
like we can hang out for a little bit and then
Get
get our
some
bearings around us and then go into the next thing. And so like North Carolina, that's a whole different story about how we got there. But we get there and they're going like at the time that you're supposed to check in. So for me at that one, like talk about disorganized, like that could mess up your whole day.
Of course, yeah.
Like from a mental standpoint, from a playing standpoint, and like I think for us, we got lucky that the second one was disorganized
Yeah.
as well. So it was almost like, and we had done one before that was really well done. So it's like you kind of just like whatever at that point. You're like, I know exactly what's about to happen. I run my 60, I do my fielding, I hit BP, and then I play a game. Like, so the expectation at that point is like you know exactly what is going to happen there. But and then for you as a player, you kind of already know like obviously you know now like this is how I need to prepare for
Yeah.
these moments and everything like that. So like yeah, I know there's people that got there after us and they were like, "Are you guys running 60s?" And they're like, "No, dude, we're hitting BP. We already done fielded and we already ran our 60s." And they're like, "Well," and they're like, "Come on, just hit." And like, it's almost like, wait a second, like this guy could run a 9 in the
Yeah, you have
60,
no
and
idea.
then he could have the worst, fielding round. He's going to hit BP, and everybody's going to be like, "Yeah, we like that guy." Like you're like, "Yo, dude, like I did everything I needed to do, right?" It's crazy.
And like you've had experiences too, and I know some coaches think like this, where like you have to reach a certain 60 time in order for them to even look at you to
Correct.
hit or field or anything like that. So it's like if you're not running the 60, it almost gives the vibe that like, all right, you don't really care. And
Yeah, you
again,
don't care.
all of these tryouts are paid. You have to pay to go to them. And I'm not saying that these are for the money because again, we had good opportunity and I think
Mm-hmm.
some of them we had, better opportunities and better circumstances than others. But like
Right, for sure.
at the end of the day, sometimes you can tell the level of effort going into the tryout. And I think that third one too, we realized quick that there are different levels to. I thought my personal experience, the third one was like the first one I thought provided the best feedback. Like they
Mm-hmm.
seemed to care, and even though they didn't sign like any of us, we didn't really get much communication at the field. When
Right.
you talk to them, like after each pitcher pitched, you got the opportunity to talk with them, and they'd give you what their recommendation for what to improve on was,
Correct.
and
Yep.
that was helpful. I don't think they did that at the second one,
No.
and the third one definitely not. But they said the second one was like we'll email you an evaluation. We said maths was not very accurate, and then they were going to do the same thing for the third one.
Correct.
And again, we go through that, and I felt like that one was the most disorganized. Our buddy was the last pitcher on the list, so we had to wait there till literally it was like dark out.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was unbelievable. And like
No lights
I
in the field.
remember you were like you had all your stuff, and then I was early. Like I was like
Yep.
probably one of the first 10 pitchers, maybe. So then our buddy was like last. So then it's like, wow, like now we kind of have to sit here. I was almost like very grateful that I had to, um, you know, go early, but like I felt terrible for him. But then like, so we go and I pitch, and I felt pretty good again. Like I didn't dominate like the other one, but like I felt
Right.
pretty good. I felt like I had a good showing, and you know, I didn't get any feedback from the coaches there, but I threw, and then you were behind the screen. You saw
Correct.
the radar gun, and
Yes.
you were because also like to know like where was I at, like how I felt pretty good. And you're like, yeah, you were like 90-91. I think you hit two once, like pretty stand. Like the other tryout, I was 90-92, hit 93, and it was like great. That's a good showing. This one 90-91, hit 92. I was like, okay. I think it was October at that point. It was pretty late.
Correct. Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I feel pretty good for the end of the season. Like that's not bad. Um, and then a couple of the guys that I talked to, the hitters and stuff, I'm like, what'd you see? They're like, yeah, you look pretty good. Like trying to get some level of feedback. It was helpful. And then we get an email. I got the email of my review a week later, and the guy said I was 86, 88, threw a lot of strikes, was like a control guy, and would benefit from going to like a velocity program or like going out to drive line and learning like how to throw harder. Which, if you've ever watched me pitch, that's not the case. I'm not.
Control.
I I I have struggled with control in the past quite a bit. So it's almost like were you even watching? And it's not. I wasn't
Right.
like it. The takeaway from the second one, if he was like, "You're throwing a lot of strikes and you're in the zone a lot," I'd be like, "Yes, I was." Like I felt that was one of the best I've ever felt. The
Yeah.
third tryout, I felt good, but like I was still like missing fastballs up a little bit. Like I wasn't spotting by any means. I was just kind of like getting away with some stuff, and then getting that feedback, which like after you got the feedback from the second one, I think that leads to my next kind of question is like, how do you take the feedback from the coaches? Because like some tryouts, we got much better feedback. Like I talking later, like that was your last tryout, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then I had two more, and
Yes.
one was in Pennsylvania, and that was like a really good tryout. Like I threw early, and I talked with the manager. Not the same situation as the second tryout, but like he was like, we like what we see. Like it's kind of like we're full right now, but if someone goes down, we're gonna keep your contact information just in case. And I'm like, great. That's like all you could ask for. But he kind of gave me some good feedback and like told me where I was velocity wise, and it was kind of it felt like a more accurate assessment. But how do you respond to the feedback from coaches when either it's not very accurate and it's coming from like a place of maybe they weren't really paying attention or watching
Right.
versus like some of the other coaches that gave pretty good feedback. Like obviously you're much more grateful and you'll take that in a lot better, but how do you navigate the feedback that's probably not very true? Like you just
Yeah.
throw it out the window, or you like what do you do?
It's, thanks. Like, honestly, like if you're getting the feedback from like a lot of, you have to be good self-reflecting, honestly. Like you
Yeah.
know where you kind of fit in. Like, as a first baseman, I know like getting professional baseball, like you can't be crazy slow.
Yeah.
Like you gotta just be able to feel your position. You gotta be able to scoop. You gotta be able to turn two. But they want to see the bat. Like that's the thing. How you manage that bat, how you drive like baseballs. You can't be hitting singles and you know trying to get signed to be a professional first baseman, right? So like for me, when they're like, hey, your power's a 2.5 on the five, I'm like, okay, like if that's what they deem it to be, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I hit 5 or 6 like opposite field home runs. Cool. Maybe they want to see me pull the baseball.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's where they're like, hey, like you didn't do that, and that's what we need. I can understand that. Like I can get behind that. So I'm like, okay, like hey, the next one I go to, maybe I need to spray with power, right?
Yeah.
Like the first one I didn't hit enough power, so the second one I'm like, how can I showcase power? Let me go opposite field. And then you get to the third one, and they're like, I didn't get the opportunity to do that. I think we skipped BP at the third one, if I'm not mistaken. And we went right into
I think you're right.
the game. Yeah. And we went right into the game where I got hit yet again.
Yeah.
But when you get the good feedback, like obviously it's coming from a place where that person knows, who you are. They watched you and like you're like, okay, like this helps me because now I can work on X, Y, and Z and be better the next time I come out and everything like that. But when you get the feedback from the guys that didn't watch you or that's not exactly the most accurate assessment of you, like it's pretty much just like, you got to know what you need to do. You got to know who you are and kind of work within those confines and everything.
Yeah, I think the self reflection piece is a big part. It's like I think especially like when we were going through all the tryouts and like training for that, we were like gradually becoming our own coaches. Where like we're trying new things and like learning and developing. So understanding like where you came from and where you are now and the work that you've put in and knowing like this is what I've been working on. Like I can either continue to work on it or something's not working. I need to like readjust and like restructure it. But like I feel like that was a good point where like, from the naked eye, you hit 6 out of 12 out, 5 opposite field. Like it's not a 2.5 out of 5 power. I don't care who you are. But then, in your head, you might say like maybe they did want a little bit more pull side pop. And like for me thinking about it, like even though like they gave me like statistics that were incorrect, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, like maybe I was 90-91. Like if I was 94, 95, like they wouldn't have said I was 86, 88. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's a different barrier that's like, okay, well maybe I can still like improve on that aspect of my game. Like even though the feedback might not seem like they were watching 100%, but like
Right.
that could also give you a green light in your head like, okay, well maybe they weren't watching 100%, but why weren't they watching 100%? Maybe I
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
do anything to catch their attention. So then that can give you a little bit more motivation as to like, okay, well, there's clearly things I still need to, work and improve on. Like,
Right.
so I think at the end of the day, like taking that criticism, there's always like, okay, like clearly this guy wasn't really watching, but like trying to bring something good out of that, taking it for what it is, and then improving from there. I think is important.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I think part of what kind of shaped that for me was there was a guy that at the second one he hit 2 pull side home runs, and then the rest were just like infield pop ups,
Yeah,
shallow pop
yeah,
ups, and they gave him a 4 out of 5 for his power.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, like maybe that's what they wanted to see. Like you don't know, and it's like it's unfair to be like I did well, and that guy didn't do as well.
yeah,
But like if this is what they want and that's what fits it, then like you didn't do well. Like you were below what their standard was. But like if you're going frontier league or something, there's 12 teams. Like somebody might take the 5, 6 opposite field home runs rather than like the 2 pull side.
yeah,
Like so you never know. It's just about that's what makes it so difficult too, because like you don't know what they want when you kind of come into it. All you have is like a general
yeah,
idea, and you're just kind of going in, and you're like, you just got to do you, and
yeah.
like you could be here, but if they don't want what you have, you're not here. Like you're there for them. So it's like it's all relative to who's the evaluator as well.
And I think you brought up like an interesting point of like the guy had 2 pull homers and they give him a 4, and it's like you learn as you go through it like what they're actually looking for. Like you kind of learn that, and like with from the pitcher's perspective too, it's like you can't go out there and throw like a regular bullpen. Like you
Right.
can't be like 5 fastballs, now 2 fastballs, 2 changeups, now 2 fastballs, 2 curve. You know what I mean? Like you can't
Yeah.
like sequence it that way. Like, and if you have 3 pitches and they're like 3 legitimate pitches, like showcase 3 legitimate pitches. Like
Correct.
I think that first one too, I think it was just so like go go go, like kind of like speeding up of like pitchers cycling through. I believe at one point I was like, oh my god, I didn't even like showcase a changeup yet. It's like and then I'm in my last hitter, and it's like you're forcing changeups and counts you don't really need to, and then it's like
Right.
this isn't really the best
100%.
demonstration of what I have. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot that goes into it, but it's good that we went through that first one, because then it's like, all right, now I know I gotta come prepared and come ready. So it's like
Yeah.
now I can't wait till my 5th hitter to show a changeup. Like you kind of just gotta, even if it's 0-2 and I'm just throwing a change to a lefty because I need to showcase that I have it, and then I can maybe generate weak contact or swing and a miss with it. Like you got to have that wherewithal to know, like, all right, this is what they're looking for. Like I kind of got to showcase everything I have. This is an
Correct.
opportunity for me to, when you're on the field, it's not an opportunity for you to get better. It's for you to
Right.
showcase. But the second it's done, then you could transition to, all right, now it's an opportunity to get better. What happened?
Yeah.
What was the result? And how do I move on from here?
Correct. And I think it goes hand in hand with like your body of work. Like you've had 4 years of a body of work, and some guys are going to, discredit that because they're going to believe what's in front of them.
Yeah.
Other guys will take that into like account, and like you just don't know who's doing what, how they're looking at things. So it's just like it's a crapshoot. Like honestly, it's a crapshoot, and like you have to do it once to truly get like an understanding of like how this goes. But like you learn more the second time you go out, you learn more the third time you go out, and then you'll be used to it. And like granted, everyone's goal is not to get to a second tryout, like it's to make the one and like you're good to go. But it's a different world, man. It's different. There's so many pitchers, there's so many first basemen, like different schools, NAIA, D3, D2, D1. Like we went to one, and the first one we went to, a kid got cut from think it was the Chicago White Sox,
Yeah.
and he showed up. His agent told him like, "Hey, you're in the area. Go over there and drive over and see if you can get in this tryout." And like, kid just showed up and in shorts and a t-shirt, and we're like, "Who's this guy? Why is he not wearing?" Oh, he just got cut by the Chicago
Oh,
White
yeah,
Sox. You're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right, that's a good player right there.
Yeah, and I feel like that. Like I went to the Frontier League draft tryout
Mhm.
thing the following year, and that's what you see too. Is
Yep.
some tryouts you see dudes like I think the draft especially, and like there were a lot of affiliate guys that you clearly saw they were communicating with those teams prior to the draft, and it's like this one the guy that got drafted first overall in that draft was like cut I think from the Rays. He was like 92, 95, living at the knees, nasty changeup, filthy slider, like just dotting up, like had no business being there, quite frankly. Like he should have, I don't, like he was nasty, but like that's kind of what they had. There were a bunch of affiliate guys, and then like to your point where, unfortunately for us, fortunately, unfortunately, however you look at it, we went to you went to 3 tryouts, I went to 4 or 5, so it's like you learn a lot and then you kind of see the same people at a lot of them. Like
Yep.
some people like were going to every single one. But then they were
Yep.
like you'd have a talk with them and they were playing on some team that like was scrimmaging some of the indie ball teams, or like they were like showcasing every weekend. Where you and I had
Hmm.
it spaced out a little bit more, but like a lot of these guys, man, that's like their grind. That's like what they were
Yep.
trying to do. It was you know, props to them and hats off to them for like keep chasing it. But then there were a lot of guys like your teacher one wasn't the best example, but like there were guys that you would talk to that you're like, I've been working like a 9 to 5 job for the last year. I've been doing X, Y, and Z, and like, I want to get back to baseball. And like, could be guys that like first could be second year out of college, they worked for a year and they want to get back, or like they could have been released and they were like, I'm just gonna hang it up, and now they're like, I'm gonna give it another shot, whatever it is. So it's like
Right.
there's a lot of different people going to these, and you hear like you see a lot of different mindsets, you see a lot of different things and stuff like that. And my piece of advice, like, because you're gonna have plenty, especially if you're a pitcher, you're gonna have plenty of opportunity to chat with a bunch of people and talk. I would like gravitate and pick the brains of those people that you think look and feel the most prepared, in my opinion. Like, have those conversations with those guys. And, like, typically you'll gravitate towards that if you're also giving that energy. But, like, you can learn a lot about, like, different things. Like, and some of those guys that have been there before to multiple tryouts can kind of give you, like, maybe a piece of advice or, like, help you out a little bit. Whatever it is, like I feel like there's some cool things that you can see at those tryouts, but like definitely a lot to learn. Even though neither of us got signed out of those tryouts, it's like interesting stories. But like
Oh
even
yeah.
like we were talking about like some of those people that keep going back to the tryouts, like they're looking at this as their potential like livelihood. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Hmm.
Like we had people like bringing their families like to come to the tryout, which like leads us to when we were at the second tryout. We had this guy. He was a catcher and outfielder, and again, like we said, we got there 8:30 in the morning. He was the only one that had someone there with him that was like family. Like everyone else, typically at those tryouts, it's like you get in, you get out, that's it.
Yeah.
His wife was in the stands, like sitting there. She didn't say a
Yeah.
word until her husband went out and started to run the 60. And then she was screaming, hooting and hollering, telling him to run faster, run it, like, crush it, babe, crush it, crush it.
Uh huh.
And we were both like, oh my, screaming,
Screaming.
screaming, screaming, top of her lungs,
Screaming.
screaming.
So that one, I mean, this could be a long one. I'll keep it short, but like we ran on the first base side. We threw on the left field side. So she walked the concourse over to the opposite side. Well, we're warming up, having a toss, and he's a couple people down from me. She's yelling, hit him in the chest.
Yeah.
Hit him in the chest. Like, show him what you got, babe. Hit him in the chest. I'm like, there's no way this is happening right now. But I think the funniest part about that day was he was struggling. But before he went up to hit, he was swinging like 6 bats. Like he was Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
And she was like, that's right. That's my man. That's how we do it. That's how we practice, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, what is happening? Like, because everybody now at the showcase, everyone's like, this is crazy. And even the coaching staff is like, this is awesome. Like, this is a great scene right now. So he goes up, and I think he struck out his first at bat.
Yep.
Bad result. And she's like, that's not what we prepare for. Like, she starts berating him.
Yeah.
And she runs down the concourse and gives him like a pep talk while he's like in the dugout. And he goes up again. Not good result. And you're only going to get 2 at-bats at this particular one. And then she starts cheering for other people at the tryout. Everybody's like, okay.
Wasn't she chirping other people at one point too?
She was chirping the pitcher going against her man. And when her man got out twice, she started cheering for other dudes at the event. I was like, this is bizarre.
As crazy as that was, though, like, there are, like, you will meet dudes there that are there and want to make that like their livelihood. And like, I don't know what was going on in that particular household, but clearly like that was like a group effort to train and be there and try to make the team. So like, some of those guys, like a lot of those guys were like, this is my last opportunity. Like, this is what I want to do and we'll see what happens. And like a lot of them, it didn't end up working out. And some of them, maybe it did, but like, it's just like, I feel like with the tryouts, you can put a lot of pressure on yourself. But at the end of the day, I think the best thing that you could possibly do is just be prepared and stay prepared and just keep pushing and training. And it will come. And I've mentioned this before with like the 7 spiritual laws of success, like the law of detachment. Like there is a piece of that I think is helpful. Because I feel like you and I put so much weight into some of these tryouts too, where like, well, at least I can speak for myself, where it's like, I got to get signed out of this. And then especially after the second one, then it's like, all right, now each one I need to get that same level of feedback. Like, I need to get signed. And then it's like, all right, that doesn't come. Well, does that make it a waste? Like, probably not. There are things that I learned from that I'll take forever. You know what I mean? Like, that experience that we both had, even though we didn't get signed out of the tryouts, I like wouldn't trade that for anything. Like, I feel like we learned a lot. Like, a lot of that's probably helped you in coaching. Like, for me, I feel like that's helped me prepare for different things. And like the mindset that we just talked about, like you go through it once and then prepare for the next one. Now you know what to expect. And now you just get ready and stay ready. Like, I feel like we learned that. And then like, for me, eventually it led to like a weird, crazy opportunity that came out of the blue. Like, and that's like the beauty of how things work out sometimes. It's like you put so much weight into it when you're in it and you're working so hard at it. Then when you can kind of take a step back, take a deep breath and be like, okay, like I learned a lot from that. Like I put in a lot of time and effort. Like you can get rewarded from that at some other point.
100%.
You know what I mean? And maybe it's not even in baseball. I was luckily able to sign at some other point, but like, even if the takeaway isn't necessarily on the field, you can take it away in the dugout as a coach. You can take it away as like in your day-to-day, in your relationships, whatever it is. Like, I feel like the experiences that we had are beneficial for like anyone.
100%.
And like anyone that's striving for that, like who will go to those tryouts, I'd say the recommendation is like keep pushing, keep working, like focus on yourself. Like the big takeaways that we talked about, like stay ready. Things aren't going to go your way because they never do at those tryouts. Whether it's we're going to switch pitching orders, we're going to make you play first base for 30 innings, whatever it is, it's going to be an exhausting day. It's going to be a mentally draining day. Like, you just have to stay present, take things for what they are, and not overreact when things aren't going to go your way, because they're not. You just got to be flexible and ready to go.
100%. I mean, not everything you're going to do, you're going to walk in with, it's not going to be the perfect environment or the correct environment. Like, you're going to walk into, like, some chaotic environments.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to be able to go in, block out whatever it is, be ready to perform, trust your preparation, and, like, if you did everything you can leading up to that moment and it doesn't turn out to be good, well, good luck. Hop on your horse again and do it all over again at something else, right? Like, but it's not always going to be your way. It's not always going to be perfect. You just got to be ready to go whenever, the time comes.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, we're going to beat this like a dead horse, but it's like being prepared and staying prepared, being ready, staying ready, like just making sure you're doing the things that will get you ready for those situations that you're going to be put in. And whether that's like navigating the way that you're going to throw your bullpens differently, it's like I'm prepping for this. I need to like show I can throw these pitches in any count and I'm going to be able to showcase all these. Or whether it's hitting where it's like I don't have the luxury of like getting warm in BP. You know what I mean? You don't get like a couple swings to get loose. You're not going to, hit the ball the other way twice on the ground and then like it's not situational. It's like showcases what you got because that's what you're there for.
Correct. Yeah. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready.
You ain't gotta get ready. Is there anything else on like this kind of side of things that I'm missing or you want to bring up or talk about?
I think so. I mean, we touched on.
I know we touched on a lot. We did. It's in hour 15, but. I'm just curious. I feel like there's just endless lessons to learn from these types of things. And like, if there is anyone out there that's listening, all probably 3 listeners, then like, if there's anything that you can take away from hearing like this, and you're going to go through that indie ball tryout route is like, just keep persevering through. And like, hopefully the messages that we talked about can stick with someone. And that's the main objective. Awesome. All right. Great episode. We'll wrap it up there. And we'll see you next episode. Next episode's going to be an exciting one.
Oh, yeah.
We got a special guest, our buddy Donovan Casey, who's currently playing in Mexico right now professionally. He was with the Dodgers and the Nationals, and we'll have some fun conversations about that. We've both known Donovan since... I've known him since high school. You probably knew him even before then. So we're gonna have some good conversations, and we're gonna pick his brain a little bit. So I'm excited to get that one out.
He's pumped up, so
good.
It will be a good one.
Great! I can't wait. He'll bring a good energy. I'm excited. Awesome. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
Until next time.